Hello, welcome to the next installment of Family Fun Day. I'm Elise Solomon, the Director of Learning and Engagement at the Taft Museum of Art, and today's project is inspired by Italian Renaissance maiolica found in the museum's permanent collection. Maiolica are ceramics with beautiful white tin glazed backgrounds and other painted ornamentation like flowers and portraits and scenes from mythology. Today's project is going to be inspired by works like these, including Courting Dish with Elena Bella. Let's get started. All right, so what do we need for our supplies? We need all-purpose flour, a little bit of salt, some water, newspaper, and then some paint for later on. So our paper mache mixture, now you can make paper mache out of a couple different recipes, but this is my favorite. I think it's great because it's just things that you probably have around your house. I also think that it creates a really strong structure. So I really like this one. So it's a pretty simple recipe. It's 1 to 2. So we have 1 part flour. So I'm using 1/3 of a cup. And I will say this made a lot more than I needed for my project that I will show you in just a moment. So 1/3 of a cup of flour, a pinch of salt. And I like to do this just because I think it helps sort of preserve some of the flour mixture, but that's totally optional. And then 2/3 a cup of water. So it's 2 parts water. We'll have this recipe for you as well on Facebook. All right, so use your whisk or your spoon, and then make sure that you have the flour fully incorporated into the water. And then it's gonna be a pretty watery mixture. That's kind of the point. All right, then the other nice thing is too, you can save your mixture if you don't use it all by just putting saran wrap over it and putting it in your fridge. So that's great. All right, so we're done with that. Now, I'm using newspaper print for my paper mache. I like newspaper print best. It is thin enough to where it will stick to each other pretty well, but has still some rigidity, strong, so it makes a strong structure whenever you're finished with it. So I've used other paper. You can use tissue paper, but that just takes a really long time to build up. You can also use copy paper, but that is just a little bit too rigid, and sometimes you have some separation of the different strips. So this is my favorite. All right, so we're gonna dip it into our mixture. All right, and you see here, it's pretty sopping. You don't need this much on there. All right, you want it to be just enough so that way you can kind of maybe see through the paper a little bit. And so I just scrape off the edges like that, and that way it'll stick to your form. So also what I've done here just to get my form is I've wrapped one of my plates in saran wrap. And so we're just going to apply the strips of paper to the surface of that saran wrap on this plate. All right, so here we go. So here we go. I've also cut the paper in, or I've not cut, I've actually torn the paper because I like those ragged edges. That helps it also kind of grab onto each other. And so they have a variety of shapes and sizes just because I think that it's nice to have different sizes because you don't know what you're gonna need in the moment. And you can just tear it as you go too, as you need to make adjustments. All right, so you see here, again, like you're getting this just wet enough so it's not dripping anymore. Now, the other important thing to remember about applying paper mache like this is that you want to make sure that you are overlapping your pieces. You don't want to set them next to each other or like spaced apart. You want them on top of each other just by a little bit so that way they stick together and start creating a more structurally sound form. And so I did mine. It took me a little bit of time. It takes about, depending on where you set it and the temperature and the humidity, it can take anywhere from about 24 hours to 48 hours to dry. And so what I also like to do is I'll start with going one way around my form, and then I'll go the opposite way. Again, trying to make sure that I have a lot of structure to my piece, a lot of stability to it. So here, I'll show you what I mean. All right. So you see I have them going vertically and horizontally right here. All right, so that's basically how you form it. So go all the way around your plate. I did about 2 layers at a time, and I built my piece up to about 6-ish layers or so. And you can go farther if you want to, if you really want it to be rigid. But you definitely want to go at least 6 layers, I would say. So what do? So once you are finished with adding your paper mache, Add some saran wrap to another plate, which I forgot to do here. And then you're gonna set it on top. And that way you leave it like that overnight, and then you will get a nice form to your paper mache plate. So once you're finished with putting it all together, you're going to lift it up off of the plastic wrap. You're going to trim around the edges. That's what I had to do at least. And then you can start to paint. So this is what my final piece looks like, inspired by our Myolica and the spring beautiful flowers that I've been inspired by for the last month, I'd say. And so you can just use acrylic paint to create your final designs. Another thing that's optional, which I didn't do here, but you can do, is a nice way to kind of seal your thing is to add a layer of Elmer's glue and diluted with just a little bit of water. And that creates a nice clear coat on the front, and you add it to the back and make it a little bit more water resistant. So that is our project for this week. I hope that you enjoy. Show us your creations at home. And if you are interested in seeing more videos like this, please make sure to check out our website, taftmuseum.org, and our Facebook page, Taft Museum, or follow Taft Museum Discovered. See you next week.